Hola, welcome back to my channel, Planning on Purpose, where we talk and share all things planning, financial, functional, and future planning. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are returning, thank you for checking back in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy watching. My husband and I are empty nesters. We are proud parents of 2 amazing daughters and promoted to grandparents over a year ago to a beautiful, precious granddaughter. In this new season of our lives, we are on a journey to be completely debt-free using a zero-based budget and cash stuffing method. Our biggest goal is to invest, to give, and most importantly, to retire early enough to actually enjoy it. If you are interested in learning more, please continue watching. With that, let's get started. In my previous video, we are talking credit card debt. Yes, the elephant in the room. We are talking, how can we get through credit card debt? How can we pay that off? I am here to assure you that regardless of which method you choose, you will get to the finish line. You will get to the finish line. The pre-work is going to be intense, but it is going to be worth it. You will need to do quite a bit of pre-work before you start tackling credit card debt. The biggest work that I can recommend that you do is the mental work. We have to get to a place where, number one, you no longer carry those credit cards. You cannot purchase anything else on a credit card. You have to get rid of them, keep them under lock and key, do not carry them with you, and be tempted. That is the first thing we must do. We must not use our credit cards. The second thing that we have to do is we have to do the work of completing a monthly budget. We have to know where we are in order for us to get to where we're going. And if we don't know what extra monies we have to put towards credit card debt, making the monthly payments, the minimum monthly payments, is not going to get us there. It is going to require work. That work is going to, and those sacrifices will be in this particular area in our variable expenses. You are going to need to do some real hard work and some emotional and mental convincing that it's doable, okay? If your goal is to get out of credit card debt, I know that you can do it if you follow either one of the methods. I personally used the avalanche method. I used that to get myself and my husband out of almost $90,000 in credit card debt. The credit card debt was accumulated over many years for many reasons, but we were still in debt, right? At the end of the day, we still had a $90,000 debt that we needed to tackle. And I will say that this was a pain point in our marriage. It was a stressful time. It was emotionally and physically exhausting, because stress will affect you physically as well as mentally. The anxiety was pretty high. It was an area and a time in our marriage where it was, a lot of discontent and a lot of frustration, because although we worked hard, we didn't live lavishly. We drove around 2 old cars, but we never had enough money. We always lived check to check. And several years ago, I just said I had enough, and I decided to go down the road of accepting that we needed to make some changes. I did not know at the time that it was almost $90,000. And every time my husband would ask me, well, how much money do we owe? My answer was always, I don't know, because I honestly did not know. I had never sat down to do the homework. So let's walk through some of these little steps, and then we're going to get to the avalanche method, which is the method that I used. And I got ourselves out of almost $90,000 of debt in 3 years, in a 3-year period. So I am here as living proof that yes, you can do this. I have total faith in you. But we must start with a monthly budget. So the monthly budget is, I already have a video on this, and what I will say is, even though you have a monthly budget, but you want to allocate your bills in your bi-weekly pay period, you can do that. I created a video for that as well, so feel free to go and check that one out as well. But this is a good broad category for us to start with. And using the same method, right, we said we're going to allocate $712.50 towards credit cards, because after we've done our fixed expenses, our variable expenses, savings, and everything else, we said we have enough money to pay towards this amount to pay towards credit cards. Because why? We are working with a zero-based budget. So let's get to it. I know that this says $712.50, but I wanted to make this process easy, and I did not want to use cents in any way, so I rounded. I wanted to get a whole number for us to work with for the purpose of this video. So that brings me to $700. Because this is not a real budget, I'm okay changing it. However, for your personal budget, you need to have an exact amount. An exact amount is the only way to go when you are trying to buckle down on credit card debt. So for the purpose of this, I'm okay with using the $700 amount. I'm going to move this here because we're going to be referencing this during this process. And so I started with a legal pad. I had all of my credit card statements piled up. I had a legal pad. I used a ruler to draw lines. I had a trusted little pencil and eraser, you guys know. And I literally wrote every single credit card down, amount owed at that time, the interest rate for each, and the minimum payment due. This is the basic information that you need from your credit card statements. Once you go through this exercise, you can then shift the numbers for your snowball method. Please go and check out that video if that's a process that you're interested in. That's the one that Dave Ramsey suggests that people use, is the snowball method. I personally really like the avalanche method, but that's just my preference. You pick whatever one works for you. There is no right or wrong. The only thing we are focused on that's a common goal is that we want to get to a zero balance on credit cards. We can all agree to that. And so based on this amounts of these 8 sample credit cards, these are just samples that I used, we're saying we owe $15,800 in credit cards, but at a minimal, we need $220 just to meet our minimum amounts due each month for each credit card. This is the amount we need every single month, okay? So you wanna have that written down. I use the sticky because this is, again, just for an example and a prop for us to use as we begin to discuss the avalanche method. What is the avalanche method? The avalanche method is taking all of your credit cards and listing them from highest interest rate to the ones with the lowest interest rate, and that's what I've done here. I think it's also important to note, I felt this way in the beginning before I knew better. Whenever I would send a payment and I would try to send, let's say, bigger amounts to these, smaller amounts to these, because I owed less, right? So I was just trying to bite at the larger balances first to get them out of my sight. And what I found was that I was hitting a brick wall. I did not see much progress in any of my credit cards. I just felt like I was drowning. I felt as though I could not get my head above water and I was hitting a wall. It was overwhelming and so frustrating. And it wasn't until I actually sat down and played with the numbers and I realized, wait a minute, how about if I tackle the ones with the highest interest rates? And I say that because you want your money to work for you. You don't want to work for your money, right? And so if I have this 29% and I'm only sending them $22, that $22, 71% of it is going towards my balance and the other is going towards my interest rate. So it's not a one-to-one. So I was just throwing my money away, basically. And that, when I realized that, I said, okay, brakes are on. Let me revamp this process. Let me look at this from a different lens. At the time, I didn't know that I was using the avalanche method. I didn't even hear of this term. I had no idea what it was called. I went to it literally just using common sense and my mental math. And I said, no, I need to make this money work for me. And so using the same principle, I listed all of my high interest rates and the minimum payments. Okay, so we're saying here's your $15,800, and we need a minimum of $220 for your minimum payments because you don't want to be delinquent. You don't want to not pay your credit cards. Are we good? Okay, so here's the basic steps. Here are the basic steps. Plan to pay the minimum amount owed on all credit cards monthly. Take any money you have left over and throw it at your highest interest rate. Continue every month until this card is paid off. Once you pay a card off, take the amount you were paying on it monthly and put it towards your next highest interest rate. Keep avalanching your debt like this until all of your credit card debt is paid off. Can you guys see that? Paid off. And in full disclosure, I want to share that I did not create this. You can download it as well. Here is the website. I literally plugged in Avalanche PDF, Avalanche Method or Avalanche Budget PDF, and this was the first one that showed up, and I clicked on it, and this is the one that I used. But the website is fun, cheap, or free. So I want to give credit to whoever created this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so let's go through it, okay? So we're saying we need $220 minimum amounts. So I went through the exercise of creating the actual deductions month to month, and what did that look like? Making some basic assumptions that I will always have $700 to put towards credit card debt, that I am no longer using credit cards. I have them under lock and key. They are not accessible. I don't even have them anywhere near me. I don't carry them with me. And so I am paying off this debt. I also want to disclose that in my calculations, I did not factor in the percentages of the interest rates because that changes the balances. I wanted to keep this video as simple as possible, and I didn't want to take forever and a day for me to do those calculations. When you go through this process yourself, you want to be considerate of these percentage rates, because if you don't, your balances will look a little funny. You'll look like you're not really adding anything, but you are. So you need to make sure when you do your personal calculations for your budget that you're factoring in the percentage rates for each. There are a ton of Excel spreadsheets online that are free that you can download and use. And so, or you can just do pen to paper, pencil to paper with a calculator. Honestly, it's that simple. So I wanted to share that because I did not calculate the interest rates. So we need $220 per month. We don't want to lose sight of that. So what I did here was I took all of the credit cards. I added my $220 here because for the first month, we need $220 to make sure we have at least the minimal for all of them. And then as each month progressed, as each time I paid off the credit card, I deducted from the $220 by the amount of the minimum payment for that given credit card. So you'll see here $220 minus 22 is $198. And I did that 198 minus 18 is 180. 180 minus 20 is 160. You see what I'm saying? This is how I was able to keep the amounts at the top. I put in the credit card, how much I owed, and what the minimum amount is for each. So let's go through the math. We said we owe $750 to Discover. This is your highest interest rate credit card right now. You owe $750. Some people may want to start tackling the $6,000 one, but stay with me and you'll see why. So $750 minus 22, we know that we have $700 to throw at this, but we still need 220 for the minimum. So 700 minus 220 gets us to 480. That means we can contribute $480 towards this overall debt. So 750 minus 22 minus 480, we now have a balance of 248. You want to continue paying off your minimum on every credit card for every month until you get to that card to get it to zero. So that's important. I want to highlight that. Continue to pay your minimum payment month to month. We are focusing on one credit card and one zero balance at a time. Once we finish January, we're now in February. but we only owe $248 in February. There's the $22 monthly payment. We still have $480, right? Because it's 700 minus 220 is 480. We pay the 248 off. We've paid off the Discover for $750 in a 2-month period. We can then be done with Discover. But the beauty is we still have residual money because it's 480 minus 248, right? That we have left over. So we are going to take 248 minus 22 minus 480. We now have a residual of $276 that we need to put towards something. This is not for you to put into your checking account and waste it on Amazon or eating out. This is not what this is. This is not bonus money. This is money to put towards more credit cards. So in essence, you're able to snowball 2 credit cards in the same month. So we owed $1,200 in Kohl's, paid off $18 in January. This is your balance. In February, we were able to throw $276 at it, brings us a total balance of $888. Pay minimum amounts on your other credit cards. We are now into March. In March, here's the sweet spot. We have $18 monthly payment. We have 700 minus 198 is 502. But we have this $22 that we no longer need for this credit card. We are now going to snowball it into here and be able to pay it off in this month. Add it to this month towards your overall total of your snowball amount. So 888 minus 18 minus 520 gets you 350. Following month, pay your minimum amount. We are now in April. April, here's your $18 that you owe per month. That's your minimum amount. You have the $22 that you've carried over, plus $502 gets you at $524. You now owe $0. You have paid off this credit card. Do you see this? So you've been able to pay off 2 credit cards within 4 months. How does that sound to you? Isn't that amazing? This was the biggest motivator for me when I was doing this process for myself. I get so emotional about it because I can relive my own experience by explaining it to you. So you are going to follow this process for every single month. And every single month, once you hit a 0, you're going to compound that minimum amount that's due and add it towards your next month, right? And because Kohl's was done in April, we can now take the $22 plus the $18 and add it towards our April amount, plus 700 minus 180 equals 520. We now have $560. We started with 480. We are now at $560 that we can put towards our debt. So 2 months you paid off 1, 4 months you paid off 2, 6 months you paid off 3 credit cards. What? I mean, say what? Not only did I pay off Walmart, but I had residual income because I only owed $16. 20 minus 16 is 4. 4 plus 560 is 564. I have now been able to add $564 towards my following month's payment, and I was able to pay off 2 credit cards in the same month. I mean, come on now. This is what I'm talking about. And you're going to follow this exercise by compounding your minimum amounts each month. Once you've paid it off, you want to compound it and add it to your following month from the last month that you paid, right? So we are now at $76. So we started with $480 residual income. We have now, based on the 700, we are now up to $632. Yes. This is what I'm talking about. I went through the exercise of doing all of the calculations because I literally wanted to see how long this process would take based on these numbers. And you guys, I am so happy to let you know that it only took 20 months to pay off $15,800 worth of debt. To add to that, you have $776 that you can put towards another category in your monthly budget. Did you really, I want to ask this question. Did you think when I first showed you this sheet with a $15,800 debt that you would get to a place where you would have $776 to put towards something else after paying off debt? That's like paying yourself back. So you now take that $776 and guess what? Whatever your student loan is, you can add it to that. If you have an emergency fund and you want to plump that up, you can add some of it to that. You now have autonomy to take those $776 and apply it somewhere else. The goal is never let this money end up in this bracket, because it will be wasted. Unfortunately, speaking from experience, you want to put it to good use. And specifically, you want to get rid of debt overall, and then you want to start building up and beefing up your savings. So this is the avalanche method. You got to pay that off in 20 months. When I showed the snowball method took 21 months to pay off, and you only had a residual of $81. And let me also tell you that once you start paying off these large amounts on your credit cards, your interest rate also becomes less because your balance is less. And so that's more money in your pocket as well. You're making the money work for you. And I hope that by me showing you these steps, that it has motivated you, that it has given you inspiration to start tackling your credit card debt. Is it hard? My God, yes. Is it impossible? Absolutely not. If I can do it, you can do it. There are so many millions of other people out there that have followed these same processes, and they have had much success, and they have been able to get out of credit card debt. And I know that you can too. One thing I would like to add is if any of this resonated with you, if you have used the avalanche method and you've used this method to get out of debt, if you can comment below and share some of your experiences, provide some feedback and inspiration, because I think that's what's important. And what's great about this community is that we are like-minded people sharing our experiences to help others. It is our gift to everyone else, right? It's our way of serving others. And that looks in the form of sharing. And, just people always want to hear your story. That much I do know. My father always said, everyone wants to be seen and wants to be heard. And I think this community is so amazing for that. So sharing your experiences could help and inspire and motivate someone else to say, oh, they did it, I can do it, right? That's great to hear. I'm not the only person that's going through this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, give me a like, send me a comment, share with me your experiences. I love to hear from all of you. I hope that this helps you. And I'm so happy that I was able to get these done for you. And I want to say that my lighting and my setup is different, and that's because I'm traveling for work and I'm doing this out of my hotel room. But I was committed to getting these videos done, loaded, and ready for you. And so I brought all of my stuff with me to be able to do it. If you guys could see how I've rigged up this lamp, this table lamp, to be able to put my phone on top of it to record, you would laugh. But hey, when you're determined to do something, you will find a way. Very similar to getting credit card debt removed. If you want to do it, you will find a way. I'm not pro or con any of the methods. I'm only sharing that I use the avalanche method and it worked for me. Another thing I want to cover is when I was going through this process, because the amount of debt that we had was so extensive. We had a lot of credit cards that were in the 24%. I even had one that was 31.9%, if you could believe it. And in order for me to get my head above water for some of those, one thing that I did personally was I went and I transferred some of those balances to a 0% credit card. But I say that with emphasis on those cards that I transferred, I put them under lock and key. I did not use them again, nor did I use the credit card that had the 0% interest rate. But I needed to get my head above water, because then every dollar I sent, it was a one-to-one. If I sent them $600, $600 went towards my balance, not $500, and then the other $40 went to interest rates, okay? And that was the method that I used. While I'm saying let's get out of credit card debt, you have to find ways, if you are disciplined enough, then I encourage you to look up some 0% interest rate cards. I had some cards, and again, it's a lot of work. You have to be on top of it. It's on a schedule. Some of them were 12-month cards. Some of them were 18-month cards. And what I did was, either the month before, I would call the credit card company to see if they could extend my 0% interest, and if they couldn't, I transferred them to another card. So it was a constant cycle for those 3 years. And that's also how I was able to chip away at that debt, because a credit card at 31.9% is utterly insane. Yes, but I did it. I signed on the dotted line and I said yes. So I was responsible for that. But there are other ways to do it if you have a large sum. If you are not disciplined enough and you haphazardly use credit cards, I don't encourage you to do that. But again, this is for inspiration. It is one of many tools that you can use. It is one of many worksheets that you can find. So use this as inspiration and as a guide. You don't have to be tied to this particular one. And that is all that I have for you. Thank you for watching until the end. Thank you for your support. I love this community. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to sharing a new video next week. That's all I have. Adios.